Hello, I'm here with Deidre Brock MP, and we were going to ask you about the motion that you were carrying at SMP conference today.
Yeah, this motion is calling on the MoD to conduct an environmental audit of all of its activities, both past and present, in Scotland. This comes out of questions I was asking on Beaufort's Dyke, which is a trench in between Scotland and Ireland, into which was poured from World War I onwards many munitions, some radioactive materials, mustard gas, and a number of things that we don't actually know about because the MoD doesn't have any decent records of it. They claim they've either lost it or transferred it to the archives, and so we don't think that's good enough because there have been reports in about March of this year of a dump off Belgium, which, because they are monitoring it, unlike the MoD, who we also discovered is not actually monitoring any of the munitions dumps in the seas around the coast of Scotland, they realise that it is leaking mustard gas and TNT into the waters off there. And there is a growing clamour, I think, internationally for countries to take their responsibilities serious in this area, and we think the MoD should be stepping up to the plate on it.
Last year there was a whole diplomatic fight between Greenland, Denmark and the US over who would have responsibility for cleaning up some of the waste from former US bases during the Cold War. I mean, have you had time to think about whose responsibility it would be, the funding for any cleanup?
Well, all of these activities took place before the Scottish Parliament was reconvened, so I think it's very much the MoD's responsibility. We know it takes sometimes a long time for the MoD to accept that responsibility. In Dalgety Bay Beach, which was really what set me off asking questions in this area, it took them 30 years to accept responsibility for that and finally begin cleaning it up. But in that period, that beach has been inaccessible to residents, visitors. I mean, it's disgraceful. So, yes, it's certainly something that myself and Stuart MacDonald, who was the seconder of that motion and is the head of our defence team down in Westminster, are going to be taking forward with assiduity over coming weeks and months.
Do you think this whole debacle brings forward the idea that an independent Scotland really needs to shift away from a war industry towards something a lot more renewable and not just piecemeal but in a much more radical direction?
I mean, definitely. I mean, there are big questions raised, and our defence team's doing a lot of work on this around moving away from, of course, nuclear weapons. I mean, some of the other questions I've been asking about nuclear safety incidents in Coalport and Fastlane brought back very disturbing answers. Over 800 nuclear safety incidents recorded, and again, I mean, it just seems to be that, you know, we'll just stick our fingers in our ears and close our eyes to this process, and it's not going to be an issue. Well, it can't keep going on like that. You know, if, say, in the munitions dumps example, we've got the leakages starting to happen, we've got World War I metals starting to degrade, obviously, as they will do in the sea over time. You can't just ignore that. You have to accept it. You have to be monitoring that and then taking action when that is needed. In terms of trying to move away from, I mean, yes, you know that the SMP policy, for example, has always been to move towards a conventional defence force and move away from nuclear weapons. That has been a long-held belief of the SNP for decades now. In fact, Rob Gibson, who was speaking to the debate then, has been involved with CND and arguing against exactly these sorts of military operations for many, many more years than I've actually been in this country. So, you know, you should have a word with him too.
Thank you very much.
Okay.